Good afternoon and good morning for some of you, and welcome to our second Wellness Wednesday series. I'm very excited to welcome you today with intro on Jenna. She's a holistic fitness and nutrition coach specializing in body fat loss, muscular development, body sculpting, performance, and holistic nutrition. She's an online fitness coach, personal trainer, women's nutrition specialist. And with that, Jenna, I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Amy. So I'm really excited to be here. I wish I could obviously see you guys' faces. So I want to give you a little bit of a rundown of how this webinar is going to work so you guys are aware. And first and foremost, just take like a super deep breath. I want you to be as present as possible. I'm really, really honored to be here and share this information with you. This information has not only changed my life, but it has been the route of what I coach and teach now and has created my career, as well as helping my clients' life. So feel free to take any pictures and jot down whatever information. I definitely recommend it. I'm huge on like writing little notes. It really helps me memorize things. And since we're here for performance, we're going to be talking a lot about like brain and gut health. So I titled this Unleash Your Genius because when I changed my nutrition and health, like I literally changed the speed at which I processed information, the way I connected, and I was retaining information really, really fast. So I titled it Eating for Performance, and we're going to be focusing on the brain and gut connection and how those two things together really, really map out our health, our feelings, our mood, and our performance, just not only in work, but in our relationships and our life. So welcome. So this is really for the professional who's wanting to gain more clarity, higher levels of energy, and of course results in their body and business. And you'll see how this is all connected. My goal is really to leave you guys life-changing health hacks so you can feel, look, and of course operate at your best. So a little bit of background on me, like who is this woman? Why is she here? So my name is Jenna Z, and I'm a certified fitness nutrition coach and certified personal trainer. I know that Amy just introduced me, so I don't want to spend too much time here, but basically I help my clients balance their hormones, lose stubborn body fat, body sculpting, performance, and holistic nutrition. So you can also find me on these pages if you want to connect later. I'm huge on Instagram and Facebook. That's where I connect with a lot of my clients. And then my email is there too if you have any like personal questions. So I want to make sure you have access to me. Okay, so like what brought me here? So I want to talk a little bit about my story so you guys can kind of understand how this got started and maybe you can like resonate. So I was a competitive athlete when I was younger. I was a gymnast and I did cheerleading. I was always in love with movement, like since the time I can remember. I mean, I love watching TV shows that are like Survivor or like Ninja Warrior and all the dance stuff. And I've just been really obsessed with what the human body was capable of. So I actually attended UCF and I graduated with a degree in business marketing. When I was in college is when I actually found my passion and interest for health. I had no idea I was going to make it a career though. So I've always had a huge passion for interest in health. My favorite subjects are and still and have been are psychology and science and also literature. I love to write, so I'm really into the arts as well. So I'm not all health and fitness. I definitely have balance, but it's all connected. And so what really brought me here was in college, I became really, really, really sick. So my grades were slipping, I had a really hard time concentrating, and I kept getting really strange infections, symptoms such as brain fog. I was not able to retain simple information. Like I literally thought I was stupid. I was like, what is wrong with me? And I would like read paragraphs and I would just get stuck. And so I was like, okay, what's going on here? So obviously led to a lot of stress, anxiety, depression. I was in and out of the doctor's offices a lot, and as a broke college student, that was really stressful on my bills. I'm like trying to pay for my education here. And I ended up on a lot of antibiotics and then eventually antidepressants. And so I noticed with those medicines, I was getting strange side effects. I didn't really feel like my full self. And I just knew I wouldn't have used the word intuition then. I would use that word now, but I knew intuitively something was off and that the information that was being relayed to me was wrong. I was like, I can't be this sick. I'm, 18, 19 years old. So I had an epiphany. So I was really, really sick of being sick and tired, and I decided to take my health into my own hands, get off the medication, and I spent all my time researching. I literally mean in my college courses, on the internet, or like while we're in class on the internet, like watching like YouTubes and reading information. And what really, really had, I guess, like spiked to that epiphany was late one night. I was drunk, full disclosure, and it was someone's 21st birthday. And I was eating bagel bites. I'm sure you guys remember bagel bites. I don't even know if they're still around, but I decided while I was drunk to read and Google the ingredients. And I was really, really shocked because at this point, I should, full disclosure, I was already into fitness. So fitness was kind of like my first leeway, like I said, with movement. So about a year into college, I started lifting and doing cardio and taking all these classes. I felt that was beneficial for at least my mental. And I knew the nutrition aspect in terms of like eating to get lean and pre and post workout nutrition, but I had no idea like the idea of ingredients. I was very stuck on calories, right? And so I was in shock because everything that I knew about health was completely challenged. So I was really, really upset. I felt lied to, extremely overwhelmed. And when I was in and out of the doctor's offices, I was questioning them a lot. They couldn't give me answers to things that were going on in the medication. So I actually got kind of in trouble at a doctor's office once for getting a little bit frustrated. And so what I discovered was that nutrition was so much deeper than calories and what healthy food and a lifestyle really was. So nutrition is actually about the bioavailability, and I want you to really hone in on these key terms: bioavailability and our body's ability to absorb them. So meaning that there are healthy foods, but if your body isn't in condition to absorb them, it doesn't matter, and vice versa. You might be having a healthy body, but if the food lacks the bioavailability of nutrients, you're not getting them either. So what I started to realize was how connected everything was in. And at the bottom of this screen, by the way, I had so much fun putting in some of the graphics on this. But what I discovered was we often look at food and health and our mood and our symptoms as separate things. And so I really want to ask you guys some questions and to really think this over. I mean, I don't have time to like sit here on each question today, but maybe tonight when you're showering or the next time you go to grab food or do something for your health, like ask yourself, like how do I think of food? Like, why am I choosing these options? Like, where is the craving coming from? And I have found, like, not only in my coaching career, but just being coached, I hire coaches, I work with a lot of people, high level CEOs, physicians, performance coaches, and I find that the deeper the questions, the more challenging the questions that I ask myself, the more transformative my life has become, because we really only know what we know, and until we start to like question ourselves, we can't really think differently. And so what I find is, and especially when working with clients, is a lot of us think about food in terms of like weight loss or calories. So it's like, do you ever, when you eat, think about food in terms of, am I eating for my performance? Am I eating for energy? Like, do you think about your organs? Like, this is huge, liver, heart, or brain. I don't think we normally, when we put food in our body, think like, oh, this is good for my liver, right? I mean, I do at this point, but definitely not 10 years ago. And then also about our guts, right? Our guts are so often overlooked, and we're going to get into why, and it's just really awesome information. So this is what I discovered. So your environment and what you eat and consume, consuming also meaning like breathing in, putting on your skin, ladies, like makeup, hair products, all those things, directly impacts your gene expression, which is actually the study of epigenetics. There's a really great doctor named Joe Dispenza that goes deeply into that. And it also affects your brain function, your gut health, and immune system, and it really drives the habits of what your future and your future health looks like. What I also discovered was how our emotions and stress also play into the above. So I don't think that we often think about when we're stressed, like, oh my gosh, I'm stressing out my adrenals, or this stress can make me really sick. We just kind of like feel the feelings that we're feeling and live in our heads a little bit. We're very, very disconnected from our bodies, our environments, our food. So I obviously discovered that everything was connected, including your brain and your gut and the way in which they communicate. So we're going to get into this. This is like the nitty gritty. We're definitely going to get a little bit scientific here, but I promise you at the end, we're going to go over things that you can implement in your food and your nutrition right away that can literally start like changing your life within a week. Okay, so the brain and gut connection. So I really want to ask you guys, how many of you have ever experienced stress and anxiety? Kind of funny question, because I think all of us experience that either daily or now and then. But often like stress and anxiety are really known as like psychological concerns, and we don't really think about treating them in terms of our food. We usually, when we feel stressed or anxious, like smoke or drink or have some type of outlet. A lot of us go to therapy or have doctors and are prescribed pharmaceuticals for that as well. But what's really interesting is what we've also discovered in the last 20 years is that people with gastrointestinal issues often experience anxiety and stress because of that condition. So it's really interesting. So because of that condition, you can have anxiety and stress and be treating the mental and not the body, but you can also not have the gastrointestinal issues and then have anxiety and stress because of trauma or whatever is going on in your life, and then that give you GI problems. So it's kind of like, where do I start? Where do I look, right? To be able to heal this so I can feel better. And so our bodies work in synergy. And so, and not to knock at all Western medicine, I think we've made some awesome discoveries. I love science. I love like getting really technical and micro, but a lot of Western medicine has compartmentalized our health. And I think this is really prevalent if you just look in, you know, we have like gynecologists, eyes and ear doctors, doctors for feet, all types of things, brain surgeons, all these things. But really, like, it's all connected. And we often tend to just look at one part of the body and try and treat it and not think of the body as a whole. And so Western medicine tends to focus on these symptoms. And I'm more focused on the root cause and what drives those symptoms. And that's what I geek out about, because especially in my 6+ years of coaching and my 10 years in the industry overall, what I've come to see is that, like, literally with my clients, what's going on sometimes in their mental space totally can affect those symptoms in their body and vice versa. So we really break it down. Hey, like, how are you feeling? What's going on upstairs? What's going on in your body? What patterns are there? And we look at all the areas, and a lot of times you'll find like commonalities and patterns, and so it's easier to heal and get to the next step. But if we're just treating one thing at a time, it can get really, really complicated. So now I'm going to kind of explain the science, and hopefully this part doesn't bore you, because it definitely excites me, and like how the connection works. So basically, the brain sends signals to our digestive system via the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So this is what is known as the autonomic nervous system, because you're not thinking about it. So if you think about like we breathe without thinking. We can control our breath through thinking, but it happens naturally. Same with our heartbeat. So these signals are actually sent to other systems in our body and can affect our digestive system, the absorption of nutrients, there's the word absorption again, secretion of digestive juices, and the level of inflammation in the digestive system. And inflammation is a really hot topic nowadays. It's a lot of times, if you're in like the grocery store, you'll see magazines that talk about eating for inflammation, and it's because inflammation can be powerful. It's good to know. It's good to have. If you're injured, you need the body to produce inflammation to send the right cells to heal to the site, but prolonged periods of inflammation can cause just crazy health disorders, and we'll get into that. So what they've also discovered in the last 20 years, because previously we thought that the brain was telling the body to do everything, but now because they realize that the body's in synergy, they've actually discovered, that the nervous system has it's pretty much its own second brain. It has 100 million nerve cells in and around your GI tract. So when you think about being nervous or getting butterflies in your stomach, or ever, the word vibe is thrown around a lot these days. If you walk into a room and you get a weird vibe and instinctually like something happens with your stomach, this is a really great representation of that. And so this enteric nervous system is connected with millions of immune cells as well. So it reacts to the ecosystem in our guts, and then it sends out chemical cues to other organs and back to the central nervous system. So that's going to be like your brain and your spine. So basically, to summarize this, and what this means is that your gut and brain are connected both physically and biochemically through millions of nerves, and most importantly through the vagus nerve. And the gut and the microbes also control inflammation and make different compounds that can affect your brain health. So recent research has also suggested that this affects your decision making and your intuition, which, like I said, when I was younger, my intuition, which I wouldn't have used as the word, was kind of going off, but I was ignoring that, listening to the experts. And this is really where, like, I come in and talk to my clients about empowered nutrition and listening to your body, because it is very powerful. Your body will tell you what foods you need, and sometimes it will lie to you and tell you what foods you don't need to, based on how you've kind of been training it throughout the years. So more questions. So what if what you think and eat today alters your health for tomorrow? And by removing or just adding some foods and raising your vibration, you could increase your energy and turn off certain genes to prevent disease. Like, what if you could really do that? And what if by thinking differently, you could reprogram your health, immune system, and habits? Well, I'm here to tell you that you can. I'm walking evidence of it, and so are many of my clients. And so now we're really going to get into the fun information and I'm going to explain to you the 3 areas that you really need to focus on. But today, for time purposes and because of how Amy had set this up, we're focusing on the nutrition aspect under physical health, but I'll just quickly and briefly touch on mental emotional health. I know Amanda covered that, which was a really amazing presentation. And so these are the 3 areas that you want to focus on. Again, I said everything is connected. So your mental emotional health, how you process information, how you connect to other people, what trauma have you faced, those kinds of things. Physical health is going to be nutrition, movement, and your spiritual health, which we're not going to touch on at all today, but that's going to be like your values, your purpose, your connection, and it doesn't have to necessarily do with religion at all. So first and foremost, emotional and mental health. So I find, because we've all been through some really crazy experiences, making sure that you have people in your environment that you can talk to, be vocal about, and express yourself freely, and that really, really support you is really, really important, especially in my own journey. That's made a huge difference on how I've gotten here. Working on self-development, meditation is amazing, or prayer for some people, therapy, meaning again, talking to somebody, and really having like passions for your life, like interests and hobbies outside of just like work, things that make you feel really, really connected. And I think that's spelt wrong, but yeah, formulating healthy relationships. Boundaries are huge. We, especially women, we tend to say yes to so many things. It's really important that you can speak up and say no. It's very powerful. And then of course, being able to express yourself through your voice. Is a typo there. Okay, so this is what we're going to focus on, the physical and nutrition. So and I'm so excited that someone's covering the physical part, because I also teach fitness, but at least getting in movement 3 times a week, even if it's not going crazy in the gym, movement is essential for your lymphatic system and your mood, excuse me. It really, really helps detox your body, and getting sunshine too. We're basically like walking plants. So if you can get some sunshine 10 to 30 minutes, 3 times a week through your eyes, that will be awesome. And then of course, eating foods that support a healthy gut and total body function. And that's what we are going to talk about. So your microbiome is another word for basically your gut health. That's like the bacteria in your gut, eating for your microbiome. So, and it's very obvious that we live in a culture where we're in a fast food culture. It's so easy to get on an app and order food to your phone. Often we don't even think about like what we're eating for lunch, like what we talked about earlier, or breakfast. We're just kind of in go mode, and we live in this, I would say, like matrix, where it's just kind of like we're doing. And a lot of our programming comes from childhood. So no offense to our parents, they were just doing the best that they could, but it is our choice to make our health and the future of our health better, especially for our children if you plan to have kids. And most importantly, the industrialization of our food. This is a huge issue. I talk about this a lot on my pages as well. It makes me really angry, and some people would say that I have really high standards when it comes to food, but it's because I really want to only give my money to companies that I know really care about our health. Within the last 100 years, we've just made it so easy to consume food, and a lot of foods, like if you go to the grocery store and buy anything in boxes, like I buy some box food, is loaded with like wheat and rice, and it's like processed, it's like grinded up, there's barely any nutritional value, so they'll have to add back ingredients to make it basically nutritional, but you're not even absorbing those vitamins, which is very interesting. And so we want to make sure that we're treating our microbiome right and learning how to eat for our health, eat for our performance. And so a lot of our diet is basically loaded with these processed foods and high sugars, bad fats, antibiotics. And I'm not here to say never to take up for pharmaceutical, or by any means, that is not what I'm here to do. But knowing that, and I didn't know this for a long time, every time that you take a round of antibiotics, it can take up to 2 years to repopulate the growth of the good bacteria in your body. So it basically is lowering your immune system, and then you're having to try and rebuild it, and then you're probably falling back into the same habits and then getting sick over and over and over. And that's what was happening with me. Gluten is a really big issue. Again, many medications because the chemicals in them and what they do to our guts, food coloring, and of course chemicals. So we're going to talk about the first and foremost what you can add into your diet versus eliminate. I think sometimes when we go into things and think about what we're going to eliminate first, it causes this like identity crisis and stresses us out. So we really want to think about what we're adding in, adding value, and you'll just by adding value, you'll want to stay away from other things anyway. So the food that you eat is not only supposed to supply you with macronutrients, and micronutrients are going to be like your vitamins and your minerals. Macronutrients, for anyone in the fitness world that might already know, is like your proteins, your fats, your carbs. But these foods are literally feeding the bacteria in your gut that are regulating your mood and sending signals back to your brain. And so there's been a lot of studies over the last few decades that have revealed that basically based on like how you eat and what's going on in your microbiome, that it influences your body weight, your metabolism, and of course, like what illnesses that you can contract. And I lost my train of thought right there. Oh well. Anyways, so some of the symptoms linked to bad gut health, right, are bloating. And I'm not talking about just like eating a meal and feeling a little bit like, you know, full after, but like long-term bloating, abdominal pain, Crohn's, and autoimmune disorders. I work with a ton of clients that have like autoimmune conditions, which can also result in like anxiety, fatigue, and even brain fog and anemia. Anemia is huge because a lot of women are actually have, you know, low or anemia, excuse me, and they're trying to treat it through diet alone, but again, they're not absorbing it. And so it's causing them to lose hair and feel like brain fog and not have enough energy, and also affecting their cycles. So we're going to get into how we can really focus on healing our guts through some awesome foods. And I'm going to start off with prebiotics and probiotics. I know that these are really big terms. You've probably seen them. They use a lot of these terms in the store when advertising food now, because gut health has become kind of like trendy since the discovery that everything is that works together. So prebiotics are compounds that are food that induce the growth of beneficial microorganisms such as bacteria and fungi, which it seems weird because we live in this, especially during COVID, everyone's all about sanitizing everything, but there's actually good in bacteria and fungi in our bodies and around our bodies. So it's not all bad. So these foods that you want to focus on are probably some foods that you're already eating and not even aware that are good for you. So foods like garlic and onions, leeks. I love artichokes. Artichokes, by the way, are one of my favorite foods and so overlooked, and are really helpful for anyone that has like liver issues or a lot of stress in their body. Mushrooms are, I like all kinds of them. They're so helpful for you, and again, they're used a lot in like the Asian foods and culture, but so healing. There's been a lot of studies on how just incorporating like a cup of mushrooms a day can completely change like the speed of your brain. It's really cool to read into some of that. Asparagus, gluten-free oatmeal. I love oats. I eat them every morning. Dandelion greens, sweet potatoes, and beans. So definitely take a screenshot or picture of this, write it down. And the way in which I would go about incorporating any of this information, because it can seem very overwhelming, is pick 2 to 3 foods in each of the next few categories. Write the ones that appeal to you or that you enjoy. And then when you go to map out your food, or meals for the following week, try and include them into what you're eating and just make it really routine and simple so you don't have to think about it so much. And then we're going to go on to probiotics. So these are the types of beneficial bacteria that are found within the gut microbiome already. But these microorganisms play a central role in health and disease and are involved in function and digestion. So probiotics are everywhere these days. I'm a big kombucha drinker. I'm sure a lot of you like kombucha. Apple cider vinegar, that's a top one. It's great to use right in the morning when you wake up with some water and lemon. It actually increases the stomach acid in your body, which is awesome for you to digest and break down food. And some of these foods, by the way, under probiotics, I should just completely warn you. For example, like sauerkraut, very great healthy food, but I cannot personally break down the sugar in it, so it makes me really bloated for days. Like I look like I'm pregnant. So if some of these foods interact with you, also pay attention to that, because not every, like what I'm giving you guys here is very general information. You have to realize that your health is very individual. So like I said, pick a few from each category, test it out, see what you like, see what you don't like, how your body reacts, and just be consistent with it. Miso soup is awesome, and kefir, pickled beets, those kinds of things. Some of these foods you can actually make at home too. Okay, next we're going to get into like the bigger foods that are with like your macronutrients. The first 2 are really going to help in like rebuilding your gut health and focusing on the bacteria, but these foods are going to be focused on energy and brain function and assist with the other 2. And so I labeled this as genius foods. I actually think somebody already probably created that term, because a while back I saw a book called Genius something, I think his name is Max or whatever, but I'm sure we have a lot in common as far as our belief in food. But really, like you can, and like I said earlier, when I changed my diet, I feel like I just became like extremely smart, extremely fast. It was almost like a light bulb had turned on, like I felt electricity in my body. And I forgot to also mention that when I was younger, I was diagnosed with, what was it, ADD or ADHD, and I was like, I am not either of those things. I might be hyper, but I understood why, because when you're not getting the right micronutrients and things like that, it literally affects your concentration. So these are foods, and we're going to go in order from like protein and healthy fats, because these are the top 2 things that a lot of people are missing in their diets, and people tend to focus on like the carbohydrates, and we want to focus on, first of all, getting the right fats and protein. These are the main function of everything that goes on in our bodies. So making sure that if you eat fish, it's wild caught. Cage-free eggs are amazing. And again, if you have any issues where you can't eat some of these foods because of allergies, totally get it. General information here. And grass-fed meats. You definitely want to focus on meats and proteins that are antibiotic, hormone-free. Like I mentioned earlier, what antibiotics do to your body, imagine what they're doing to the animal, and then what you're getting from eating that meat. So what the animal eats, you're actually eating. And as far as fats goes, and fats are also involved in protein, so both categories kind of go together. Grass-fed butter, if you're more on the vegan side, olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, and grass-fed meats, because obviously healthy fat is in grass-fed meats. Avocado is one of my favorite foods, and by the way, it's so like loaded in B vitamins, amazing for females' health. So if you're dealing with any hormonal issues right now, I would suggest that you level up your protein and healthy fats and focus less on carbohydrates. But we're going to talk about those too, because we all love carbs. So as far as carbohydrates go, you want to stick to ancient grains and complex carbs. So beans and peas, chickpeas, like if you like hummus or Mediterranean food, awesome. Mediterranean food actually does a lot of things right. Quinoa and buckwheat and millet, so you can make gluten-free breads and things like that. As far as fruits go, organic berries are number one, the best way to go. This is kind of in order. Plums, grapefruit, and jackfruit, pears, apples, and pomegranates, the healthiest fruits that you can eat for your brain. I know a lot of people like to snack on fruits because they satisfy your sweet craving, but you really want to focus on eating fruits for your brain health and antioxidants. That's what you want to look at. And as far as leafy greens go, kale, collard greens, and spinach and microgreens are going to be the best for you. And one of the things that you can do each day, if that's complicated for you, is really eating a micro and macro nutrient dense big salad. If you can even just get in one meal that contain like an ingredient from each of these lists, you're definitely well on your way to like outperforming your old self and anyone else you're competing against in work. That's all that I have for you today in terms of like food. Again, foods that harm gut health. I put this at the end because a lot of times we focus on what to avoid, right? And I think that creates a lot of fear and scarcity in people. So whenever you're going about your nutrition or healing, always focus on abundant thinking, what I'm going to add in first, and what you're contributing to your health versus taking away. Your body will heal a lot faster too. So avoiding foods, I would say like 90% of the time that are like processed meats, right? So they have like a lot of nitrates and things in them. Gluten, which that's just such an issue these days. It's actually taking over even some of the organic crops. Like a lot of that stuff is getting into the good food. I know that we all like drinks from time to time, but alcohol should not be in your diet in the daily. It literally breaks down your microbiome, kills the good bacteria. Prescription drugs, medicines, NSAIDs, those are like the steroids like aspirin, and what's the other one that people take? Tylenol. You don't, every time you want to have a headache or something like that, this goes back to earlier, and really tuning into your body is like, if you're having a headache, if every time we go to grab something like a pill, it's like, well, we should kind of like ask ourselves, well, why are we having such a bad headache? Do we not drink enough water? Did we drink alcohol last night? Have these been happening to me consistently? Because a lot of that stuff is really, really easy fixes, and putting the stuff in it that gets rid of it instantly is actually doing your body more harm and later on. Artificial and processed foods, and of course sugar. And I'm not saying that you can't ever have sugar in your diet. We all love a little bit of it, but you really shouldn't have more than like 12, 20 grams of sugar on a daily basis. That's kind of like a rule I share with my clients. If you guys want to jot that down, and definitely sugar from higher quality sources, but you want to have your sugar from like complex carbs. You'll have more sustained energy. You'll stop craving it as much, and yeah, it won't drive you. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. If you have any questions, let's connect, ask me on here. I'm sure Amy can take over and ask me out loud. And then other places that we can connect so you can get more of this information. I'm really, really vocal on Instagram or Facebook, and that is my personal email as well. So if you have any questions that you don't feel comfortable asking out loud, you can totally reach out to me there. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jenna. I really enjoyed this a lot. We do have a few questions. I'm going to go ahead and read them off. The first one that we had was, does timing matter at all for when you eat? And you talked about calories versus actual nutrients, but what about timing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in terms of like, I would say athletics, like pre and post workout nutrition, definitely. It doesn't have to be like perfect, but it will help you. For example, I always recommend to my clients, and some people do really well training on an empty stomach as an example, but most people do not, especially women long term. It works better if it's like first thing in the morning, but making sure that you have a solid meal 1 to 2 hours before training, making sure that you get a meal 30 to 40 minutes after training. As far as like if they're referring to intermittent fasting, which I think that might be where that question came from, I always recommend eating within a 10 to 12 hour time frame. Fasting can be beneficial, like some people like to do the 8-16 hour window. That's more beneficial for men. And if you already have like dietary restrictions or emotional issues with eating, you can actually mess up your body and cause a lot more stress. So my number one rule that I always tell my clients versus focusing on that is not eating 3 hours before bed. That's really the best thing that you can do. So when you're sleeping, your body's not digesting food, you're repairing all the systems it needs to, and making sure that when you eat or when you wake up, you get like 3 to 4 solid meals a day. And some people even do that within 2. So I would recommend tuning into your body and seeing what feels right. And again, just not eating 3 hours before bed, and you should be good to go. I hope that answered their question.
Yeah, thank you very much.